everyone, welcome to my channel. As you can tell from the title, today I'm going to be doing kind of like a travel guide to Salem, Massachusetts. I'm sure a couple of you have seen my Salem videos, but if you haven't, I've been to Salem, Massachusetts 6 times. I'm going for my 7th time at the end of this month. I'm so excited. I've never actually been for October, but I've heard it is a little intense, but I'm ready for it. I just want to experience Salem in its prime. Yeah, I just figured it was time. Also, just wanted to address that I haven't been posting lately, and I said I was going to do Vlogtober, and I severely underestimated how much I was going to be working this month. But since I am going to Salem and I'm going to Sleepy Hollow, those are definitely going to be vlogs that I am still going to do. It's just the daily vlogging, there's just no time for it. I'm going to post as much as I can before October's over, and yeah, anyways, it's going to give you advice if you're looking to go to Salem. This is a great overview that I'm about to give. I have been to Salem like many times, and I've done many different things, and I just feel like I know the ins and outs of everything to do with Salem. Where to stay, what time of year, prices, museums, stores, all of that. We're gonna be covering everything. It's gonna be like a huge overview. I wrote down a bunch of stuff in my notebook. I have it in here. Look how cute this book is. I got it from Spirit Halloween, and it's like the book from the beginning of the movie. So I have it in here. Salem Travel Guide. Me personally, I have always stayed anywhere from 2 to 3 nights, and I feel like that's like the perfect amount. I feel like a week is kind of a lot. Salem, some people, it's not like Disneyland. Like there's no rides, there's no like huge activities going on, except in October. Every time I think it's not going to be enough time, but by the time it's over, I'm like, okay, I think we saw everything we needed to. You know what I mean? So that's just my advice. Obviously, anything I say in this video is not end all be all. It's just some advice that I've discovered over the years to give to you. Where to stay. I have recommendations. I have a couple. These are all in Salem. The reason I recommend staying in Salem is because Salem is a walkable city. Everything you need to see is in walking distance for the most part. So staying in Salem definitely makes it a whole lot easier. It's cheaper. You don't have to Uber. You don't have to drive. You just park at your hotel. The #1 place that I have stayed is the Salem Inn. I have 3 houses. Each have different rooms ranging price and accommodation, like how many people you could fit in the room. Parking is included when you stay at the Salem Inn, so I really recommend that because it just makes it so much easier. I wrote down how far each of these is from Salem Visitor Center, which is basically in the center. I just used it as like a center point of Essex Street, but a lot of things are closer. I put less than a 10-minute walk from the Salem Inn to the Visitor Center, but it's like a 5-minute walk to like some of the stores going down Essex Street. Like once you hit Essex Street, it's right around the corner from it. So for me, I have stayed with my mom. A lot of the times it's just the 2 of us when we go, so we've paid around like $250 a night there. Breakfast is included, so like that's around the cheapest you'll find in Salem. It's kind of expensive to stay in the city, but in my opinion it's 100% worth it because it's just so convenient. You know, you don't have to drive anywhere. Hotel Salem is on Essex Street. It's literally a couple doors down from the Salem Visitor Center. That's a huge plus. It has a rooftop bar if that's more of your vibe. It's definitely a great option if you're flying in. For parking, you do have to park it in a parking garage and pay for it. Don't quote me on that because I've never actually stayed there, but like when I was researching hotels myself to go, that was the big like problem we ran into, was the parking. It wasn't included. But if you're not really too worried about that, it's a great option. It's right on Essex Street. It ranges from about $250 to $400. Obviously, different times of year, it's gonna spike or it's gonna go down. Then there's the Salem Waterfront. This is a very pretty hotel, obviously waterfront view. I've never stayed here. I've always just like passed it. The Salem trolley passes it. Like in between the wharf and like the Essex Pedestrian Mall. So it's pretty, again, good location. It's a 7-minute walk to the Visitor Center, and it ranges from about $300 to $500 a night. I'm pretty sure parking, you can park in their parking lot if you're staying there. The Hawthorne Hotel is at the very end of Essex Street, closest to Crowhaven Corner, Salem Witch Museum, all of those things like towards that end of Essex Street. All of the things that you are going to want to see, for the most part, all the touristy things are on or around Essex Street. So that's why I'm using that as a reference. Hawthorne Hotel, if you're into ghosts, definitely would be a place to check out. And the Salem Inn, I've heard, is haunted as well. But the Hawthorne Hotel, obviously, it's famous for many reasons, but the main reason is that it is haunted. Around $250 a night. My mom isn't the biggest fan of ghosts, so we haven't stayed there yet. It's definitely on my bucket list though. I want to stay there. And again, that and Hotel Salem would probably be the two most centrally located hotels. And there's also a Hampton Inn, 9-minute walk from the visitor center. Each has its own pros and cons depending on the needs of your family. So I would definitely recommend going on their website. Each of them probably has a website information, looking up reviews, looking up the types of room they have. Definitely look into the parking situation if that's something you're worried about. Those are just the ones that I have looked into or have stayed at or have heard good things about. Crowd levels. Let's talk crowd levels. So if you want to go during the least crowded season, I would say anywhere from winter to spring is like the sweet spot of like not a lot of crowds. Dead crowds, most things are open all year. Those are the pros. While there are certain Halloween specific things, it's very far and few between. Salem has really evolved into a tourist city year round. So most of the things that you want to see, museum or store, for the most part, they are open during the winter and spring. They might have limited hours. That would be something that you would have to like follow up on if you chose to go. And obviously Salem is in New England. It gets cold. You do basically have the city to yourself and you could do pretty much everything. It's just really cold. If you're fine with the cold, definitely recommend. If you're more of an introvert like me, dead crowds, but you still get all of the things, you'll get to see what you want to see. Into summer, obviously has nice weather, and the city is a little more lively than the winter and spring. It's not quite as crowded as it would be in like September and October, but it's still, I've only gone during like the summer and once in September, so the crowds, there wasn't too many crowds, but it was lively enough for like, you felt like you weren't like walking a ghost town, you know? Like there's still people doing the attractions, there's still tourists. It's just not as intense. If you are part of the LGBTQ community, they have some events during June, but I saw like a drag show. That was fun. So I'm sure they have more where that comes from. I wrote pros and cons for each, but summer I couldn't really think of a con other than like if you don't like hot weather, but for the most part it's pretty good. And Halloween season. Now, I can't speak from personal experience yet. I am going this Halloween season, but I haven't been. And I've heard that it just gets more and more crowded every single year. You're like packed like sardines. Everything is like a 20+ minute wait just to get into a store. But I feel like it's a rite of passage to experience Salem during Halloween for me. It's my favorite time of year and my favorite city. I have to go. That is the biggest con, I would say. Be warned, there's gonna be waits for everything. Pros, obviously, if you go during Halloween, you get to experience it during Halloween. All the leaves, all the haunted happenings activities. If you're planning a trip around Halloween, I would say plan, like try to book your hotel a year in advance because they do sell out so quick. What to see? Now, this is very basic. It just depends on the needs of you and your party and what you want to see, what you're in Salem to see. If you're a Hocus Pocus fan, obviously, the #1 thing, Hocus Pocus locations. They filmed a lot of exterior shots of Hocus Pocus in Salem, so those have become very popular over the years. Max's house, which is at 4 Ocean Avenue, Salem, Massachusetts. It's about a mile from the touristy part of the town, so if you don't want to walk a mile there and back, I would recommend driving. Town Hall, the party took place. They didn't actually film in there, it was just like the exterior, but still cool. Jacob Bailey High School, which is now I believe a condo complex or whatever. right down the road from Hawthorne Hotel and the Salem Witch Museum. Ropes Mansion, which is Allison's house. I think you can tour it, but they didn't actually film inside of it. But there's a beautiful garden outside the back that you don't have to pay to get in. So beautiful, highly recommend if you go visit that. Pioneer Village, which is, it's only open on weekends, I believe. It's not walkable, you have to drive. I've never been, but maybe I'll go this year. That's where Thackeray Banks' house is. The Old Burying Point Cemetery, that is also a driving location. But the rest are pretty much all walkable. Number one thing I recommend that I didn't do until a couple years ago, and I regret it because it really gave me like an overview of the city, is the Salem trolley. 100%. It's really cheap. It was like $12. You could get on and off throughout the day when there's availability. If it's like super crowded during October, you cannot do that. But during the summer, we really had like no problem. It's you around all of Salem and just gives you an overview of the history of the city. This doesn't have to do with the witch trials. This doesn't have to do with hocus pocus or anything witchcraft like that. They'll point out some things like Allison's house and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's just like history of the city. I find it super interesting because you get to like see certain things and like you get to like look where everything is and you get like a nice overview and like a tour of the city. I just think it's really informational. It's fun to go on it. Like, even though I've seen the tour like many times, each tour guide is great and it's just nice to like sit and relax and have like the wind blow in your face and be able to see the city while sitting down, you know, kind of nice. It's like the number one thing I recommend you do to get like an overview of the city. And then another thing I highly recommend is a night walking tour. Now there is so many. There's like, I believe around 75 different walking tours you could do at night in Salem. First walking tour I ever did was the Hocus Pocus tour. It's not entirely surrounded by Hocus Pocus. Like, yes, they point out certain Hocus Pocus filming locations, but again, it's like the history of the witch trials. Basically, any walking tour you're gonna do, you're gonna get a rundown of the witch trials history. By the time you leave, you're not gonna forget anything. Pointing out different locations of significance around the city. There's also the Salem Witch Walk, which I found so cool. Being a little baby witch myself, this tour is led by a real Salem witch. It's really cool because you get to be a part of a spell, a ritual. Even if you're not like into witchy things, it's just cool to see that way of life. My mom loved it and she is not a practicing witch, so that, yeah, like you don't have to be a witch to enjoy it. I think it's really fun. Ghost tours, I love ghost tours. Again, most tours are super similar with the information they give you. It's just like researching. Like one of them that I went on was the Voodoo Vampire and Ghost Walking tour, where it was more focused on like scary stories, and he spoke about vampires, which I thought was really cool, like real life vampires. So if that interests you, there's like different like niches you could get into. Like there's like another one, Witch City Walking Tours, they have like the night version and like the ghost version. There's like a million different tours to go to, but those are like the ones that I've done that I highly recommend. But so walking tour. Then the witch house. A lot of people take pictures in front of it. If you have looked up anything about Salem, I'm sure you've seen this house. It's the black house and the little sign outside of it that says the witch house. No witches have actually lived there, but it is still super cool to go inside. The only house dating back to the witch trials, it was the house of Judge Jonathan, I think it was Judge Corwin. It's the only house it's the only property that is still standing that dates excuse me, that dates back to the witch trials. So I think that part is really interesting. The Salem Witch Museum is a rite of passage. It's that creepy old looking building that looks like a church. It was a church. It's about the witch trials, and you sit in a room and there's wax figures all around telling stories, and then it goes into like modern day witchcraft and the history of how media portrays witches. So highly recommend. If you do it once, you don't have to do it again. Witch History Museum, this one's also cool. More wax figures. Anywhere you go in Salem, you're gonna find wax figures. I don't know what it is, but it is wax figure central. So if you see one, you see them all. The museum itself, I don't really remember. I just remember wax figures and it being in a basement. Count Orlok's Nightmare Gallery. This one's super cool. Definitely highly recommend. The first time I ever did it was this past time I went to Salem. I never did it before that, don't know why. It's right on Essex Street and it's so cool. It's all figures of different horror movie characters. I don't want to give too much away because you're not supposed to talk about like what's inside there, so definitely check it out for yourself. I loved it. It's not scary at all either. It's just like the figures, so you could bring your children in there easily. The time I did a sunset sail, they take you out on a boat for sunset and show you the wherever, I forget the body of water. Go during sunset, so you watch sunset on the water. It's beautiful, and you shoot a cannon and woo, it's fun. You could buy drinks, it's fun, it's something different, and you get to experience the more water. Salem is a waterfront city, so you get to experience the more waterfront version of it rather than just the spooky witch trials. So that's fun if you're looking for something different to do. I found it really fun. There's the Witch Dungeon Museum. This is one of the more interesting museums in my opinion. It starts with like a live actor who's like acting out a court scene from the witch trials, and then you go in the dungeons. So I think it's cool. My one experience I had in there, someone farted in the dungeons, and if you've been to a dungeon, there's no windows. So yeah, that is something funny I remember from that. House of the Seven Gables. I found this house really interesting. If you've read House of the Seven Gables or you're a fan of Nathaniel Hawthorne, it's a super cool. If you're like a literary interested person, definitely check it out. Super cool. It's a beautiful house. The Halloween Museum on Essex Street is super cute. All of these are kid friendly, by the way. None of these are like scary or anything, so you can bring your kids to all of them, which is super nice if you have kids. The Halloween Museum is like a glow in the dark kind of museum. It has like props from different movies like Nightmare Before Christmas, Hocus Pocus, and it has like a black light so things like glow and stuff. The Peabody Essex Museum, I've never been. It has nothing to do with the witch trials. It's more of like Salem's maritime history. And then stores. I'm just gonna run through these because there's a ton of stores. There's a ton of stores that I didn't even write down, but these are just my favorites. Most stores are on Essex Street and the surrounding streets, which is the Essex Pedestrian Mall. So Coven's Cottage, a witch store, love it, family owned, great. Crowhaven Corner, another witch store, amazing. Salem Trolley Depot, love it, that's like the trolley store, but they also have some of the best merch there, in my opinion. Twilight House of Salem, they have a lot of Harry Potter and Hocus Pocus and, you know, all nerdy things. Witch Tees is my #1 store in Salem to buy my t-shirts. I love it there, and I will always go back. Modern Millie Boutique, oh my gosh, if you're plus size or just love quirky clothing, go here. That's all I'm gonna say. I love it. House Witch, that's also another witch store. Why Nots and the Harry Potter store. Why Nots is the wand store, and then the Harry Potter store is right next to it. Obviously, if you like Harry Potter, check it out. Maria's Sweet Somethings, they have the best ice cream. If you go, get the Snickers ice cream. It's right across from Town Hall, and you could sit outside or sit inside and enjoy your ice cream right by the Town Hall. Coven, super cute. It's very, if you think of Salem, you think of this store, like the vibe. It's black in there. It's dark, spooky, amazing. Wicked Good Books, love a good bookstore. Pyramid Books is by the wharf. Witchery, you could make your own broom. Ye Old Pepper Company is the oldest candy shop in America, and their chocolate turtles are amazing. Food, Red Sandwich Shop. I love going there for breakfast. It's so cheap. It's a local treasure. All the locals go there. So it's kind of being infiltrated by tourists, but Red Sandwich Shop is so good. Something I recommend. Food can get super expensive, especially in Salem. If you're dining by the water, it's like crazy. There's a pizza shop in the Witch City Mall. It's called Essex's New York Pizza and Deli. They have great pizza. I'm from New York, so their pizza is really good. I highly recommend their crispy chicken Caesar salad wrap. I get it every time. Highly recommend. It's cheaper than like a restaurant if you want something quick for lunch and then you go to dinner at the restaurant. You know what I mean? Save some money. Ugly Mug Diner is another one that's kind of more affordable. I've heard great things about Turner Seafood. If you like seafood, I think it's more on the pricey side, obviously, seafood, but I've heard great things from locals that they love Turner Seafood. Sea Level Oyster Bar, I've been there a couple times. It's by the wharf. They have some great seafood as well. Their lobster roll is really good. Their New England clam chowder is so good. Gulu Gulu Cafe has some great coffee. It's a cute little cafe. You could sit out, you could eat. It's so cute. The bathrooms are really cool. Life Alive Cafe, if you're vegan, they have a lot of plant-based options there. I think it's a plant-based cafe. I got a smoothie there once. It was so good. You take out or you could dine in. Village Tavern is really good. Their pulled pork sandwich is pretty good. I think I had it there. I can't remember. You could sit outside. You could bring your dog. Lobster Shanty has an amazing lobster roll. And if you go there, get their tater tots. I get the tater tots inside the fries. They're so good. Spit Bar, oh my gosh, it's so fun. It's like an arcade bar. After 8 p.m., it's only 21 and over, so you could drink. There's arcade games. I played skee ball with my mom. We played pinball machines, and the food was really good. Rockefeller's also has a really good pulled pork sandwich. But Rockefeller's also does a mystery shot during, I think all the time. I think they always do a mystery shot for $5. You don't know what's in it, but I've never done it. But I see Derek Millen, who also does a lot of videos about Salem. He gets the mystery shot a lot, so that's a fun thing there. And I believe that is all the information I wrote down. Again, what I say is not end all be all. It depends on what you're looking for, what you like, what works out for you and your family or whoever you're traveling with, your partner, your party, whatever. All the hotels are different. You can't really go wrong. It's just you gotta weigh the options. Like, I can only tell you so much before like you have to do a little research on your own. But this is basically like the overview of what I recommend or what I do when I'm there. If you have any questions, please feel free, comment them down below. I try to answer people as often as I can when they have Salem questions, or you could DM me on Instagram. Follow my Instagram, DM me if you have questions, comment if you have questions, comment if you've ever been to Salem, or just comment, say hello. I'd love to say hello back. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.